Well, hello there, and welcome to A Film a Day, with me, Jordan Woodley. Well, I'm in front of the bookshelf, and that can only mean one thing. I am covering another so good, it's bad, so bad, it's good. Who's to say in this case? Because today I am discussing a film that I won't have a lot to say about. This may be a mini-sode because I have so little to cover, but I'm going to be briefly discussing the 1983 creature feature, The Deadly Spawn. This is one of those cases where the 80s was a great time for experimentation in terms of, particularly with creature features. You know, practical effects had gotten to this absolute zenith, and there had been this cultural love of things like critters, gremlins, what are they called? The crawlers from, I forget. But there was this phase in the 80s where everyone seemed to really like sort of big groups of monsters that wreak havoc in small towns. And of course, because they're easy to produce to some degree, and people do have a passion for creating monster effects, it meant that as long as you had a dedicated enough practical effects person or house to be able to do something, and the lowest of low budgets to be able to film, which in this case essentially is a forest and a house, essentially you can make anything. And this is definitely a demonstration of practical overplot, you might call it. Because Deadly Spawn is a very, very basic premise. Aliens land on Earth through a meteorite and essentially start travelling along, killing people, make their way to the basement of a domestic house where one by one they devour the residents of that house. And I mean, what I've given in the summary is probably more thought and structure to the plot than I think even the people who made it considered it, because it is a film that has almost no plot. It's just, who can we get in front of, which people can we throw at these creatures so we can show off how cool we think these creatures are. And I wish there was like a meta-text or subtext or meaning behind it, but I am sincerely struggling to give this more meaning than it has. Because, I mean, it's more the case that you think that it's the strangeness of the plot. It's the fact that, so initially you have your initial introductory scene where two locals find the meteorite crash site, the creatures are unearthed and devour in a cold open style attack your local hit type characters. Then, for reasons I can't remember, even at this point, the film is starting to even, like, I'm pushing to remember what happens because this film is so oddly structured, but they find their way to this domestic house and then go straight, or find their way into the basement. And you think, okay, so it's going to be, from this point on, that people are going to be under threat, but it's going to be this, we're going to establish this family, and then we're going to put each member of the family, as I say, in peril. But the way the film instead structures this is that we meet a couple, and the couple are sort of joking around and flirting, but they seem like a middle-aged couple. And then, and there's no real dialogue to establish who they are, where they are. You know, obviously we can guess that this is their house, but we don't really get a sense of character to them. We know they are a couple, and that's it. And then, I believe it's the guy who goes down first. Oh, no, sorry. It's the wife who goes down first. And then, of course, the creatures fall upon her. And then the guy goes down and finds her body and the creatures, and they fall upon him. And then we are introduced to a whole new set of characters, where we have another couple around the same age, who, as it transpires, are the sister and partner, sibling and partner of the original couple, but I cannot tell you who's sibling to who. And they are again established, and this time we're thrown a bunch of kids, teenagers and younger kids. And you realise that the kids are actually the children of the couple who've been killed in the second cold open? Does that exist? I don't know. And all of a sudden, we're now being given a sense, broadly speaking, of character, but this is the loosest of loose when it comes to this kind of storytelling. I mean, you do get a little bit more with these characters, where you establish that the son's into science and he has a group of friends and a girlfriend, and it's trying to do your more traditional 80s sort of style to it. And of course it does that thing where characters, for whatever reason, are lured into the basement, and their disappearances take a while to be noticed. For instance, the initial couple who are killed, sort of it's hand-waved that they were going out that day. And then there is I think a postman who is seen as indicated to go down to the basement to drop whatever package. Just poor plotting the reasons to allow people to go down there. And then you establish the child, the son, again, goes down. And weirdly, you have this rather remarkably extended sequence where the creatures, I don't know if they don't notice him or they just leave him to it and he's just watching them and is sort of frozen in shock, and you think, is this going anywhere? Is there any meaning to this? And it's just this extended sequence that goes on of him, and it cuts away to other characters, and you think, well, maybe because he's a young child they didn't want to show it, so it's off screen, but no, it cuts back, still there. And that goes on for a while. And of course eventually the film does have other characters eventually get, go in the more traditional one by one offed. But even then, it's you don't really know who anyone is. You barely know anyone's name. When they're killed, that's the shocking part, is the fact, the quality of effect and the nature of the deaths. You're kind of like, oh, that is quite grotesque, and I'll give them credit for that. Until you get to a climax that's just a mess. A mess? Yeah, a mess. And it definitely feels like I say, the 80s, independent, people love practical effects so they can do it, whereas now CG means it becomes significantly harder to be able to just throw a film together. And honestly, I cannot get my head around it. And of course it does all the things that these films do, where, you've got your teen boy and a girl who is not the girlfriend, because apparently, according to trivia given by producer wife Helen, the girlfriend character was supposed to survive, but because the actress was had other commitments, had to very quickly be written out. But another girl, the main boy, and the girl survive. Of course, there's the hint that the creatures survive in some capacity, and they're going to continue sort of trailer baiting, sequel baiting. But man, this is extraordinary in its insignificance. Strange film, but it is, I suppose, potentially a fun drunk watch. Maybe. I have 100 other films I would suggest to someone first, but sometimes you just want to switch your brain off and have a strange monster film on in the background. And hey, there always need to be more films for MST3K to look at. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment below, and share the video, because it will help me in the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to get notifications of when new videos are uploaded. Check out my back catalogue of over 200 videos, and follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley, where I tweet about TV shows and films, and I share these videos once they're uploaded to YouTube, either the day of or the day after. Thank you for joining me. Take care.